acknowledge the very informative presentation. My question is based on the grant that been given for those who try to acquire land. Like for some of us, we have already went and do some work and have some contribution on our FNPF. And for instance, just on Topia itself, there are people of Flowaki and also people of Namoli, they are giving out their lands, and it costs around about 10 to 11,000. But we have our contribution on FNPF for the 30% general account with 30%, because you can use another 30% from the preserve account in order to buy land. And for me, I have around about 9,000. But if I want to buy a land, it costs 11,000, which this also works well for some of us who already have babies, so we can stick our family up there. For us that want to acquire land, and the grant is 10,000, is it possible that because we are not working now, for me just having that entitlement from FNPF with the 10,000 grant from government, and just deduct 1,000 from my FNPF in order to acquire land? Absolutely, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. As long as you have that component in FNPF that allows you to withdraw that amount, you know, your 30%. There's nothing stopping you from getting that. In fact, a lot of people who actually do buy, who even buy homes, it's a component of the FNPF contribution plus their grant, they combine it together. So you can do that. Makes things easier. Thank you very much. That is my first question. Because I have to break the ice for these people so they can go ask a lot of questions later. My second question is, as we are trying to move on to become a digital Fiji, and it is something that even myself, I welcome this thing. Just last week, I think on Saturday, Apple became the first $1 trillion company. Apple, led by Tim Cook. And we are now moving, say for example, Walesi is an app. And we have the FNPF app on the TV and how to download it. And we also, for Apple to go into this, to be in this success, becoming a $1 trillion company, they've opened up this boardroom in their stores and try to teach people on how to become developers of apps. Is there any initiative or incentive coming to Fiji, like this year or next year, especially now because we are having free Wi-Fi here, we can come and try to develop our own apps, and rather than trying to become app users, we can become app developers. That is my second question, sir. Is there any more? That's okay. Okay. Most definitely, as you know that, for example, the number of initiatives have been put in terms of development. We have the YES program, as you know, that you can also, we want yourselves to become not only job seekers, but also job creators. We've had a number of people, for example, from the various universities come together and develop an app. In fact, I had somebody who just showed me an app, which is a very interesting app. They've developed it, the students from USP. It's what you call your carbon footprint app. So every time you do a transaction, it says how many points you earn or lose in respect of what you carry out as your human activity. And we can get the buy-in of people and you get points. So if you get a certain number of points, you may get, for example, you know, a free washing machine or whatever the case may be. But it's a very good app actually, so we're looking at that through our ICT sector. There's that. There's also, of course, here, like I highlighted to you, 250% tax deduction on expenditure incurred for investing in research and development in ICT. Nothing stopping an overseas company now getting a 250% tax deduction, plus they get a tax holiday too, you know, to set up here in Fiji in the ICT sector. So we're really encouraging that. The other one, for example, that I should highlight to you before I forget, over here.
we're developing all this digital government transformation. By the way, to correct you, Wailesi is not an app. Wailesi is a company. It's 100% owned by government. Wailesi has its own app for you to be able to get in Wailesi, the digital platform. Now, but all of this is being developed for us. We're working with the Singaporeans, developing all these government apps. Now, we've got a program now with the Singaporeans to train Fijian ICT people from universities. With the Singaporeans, after a while, will leave. We want our own people to run these apps, look after the apps, look after the systems. So there's a lot of jobs will be created in that space. All of this needs to be run by people. If you look at the Shivnesh, who is also the CEO, acting CEO of Wailesi, a whole lot of young people they have actually hired to work in Wailesi. Engineers, software engineers, IT engineers, all of these people are being given employment. So all of these opportunities do exist. There is also, you can get in touch with Ministry of Industry and Trade if you've got a new app. We're also giving incentives to companies to get into that space also. So there's a lot of opportunities there. So what we're doing with the Singaporeans, we'll be selecting people and sending them to be doing some work maybe in Singapore and also be attached to them here. So when they finish university, we'll select the best people to run these apps for us. So that's being done also.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Honorable Minister for Economy. Your budget is allocated to 1 billion in education in this financial year, which is a substantial amount and it is warranted. My question is, I am a National Youth Band certificate holder, and I spent 3 years at the NYB to get my certificate. But when I look for an opportunity at the Ministry of Education, with that certificate, I was not given any. Why? Because that NYB certificate is not recognized by the ministry. Can you explain why such courses offered under the Ministry of Youth is not recognized by Ministry of Education? It's like we waste our time and resources in NYB. Now, I am here at FNU to get recognized paper at my own costs. I have taught as a volunteer teacher in PMEX for 4 years, and I still not recognized by Ministry of Education. Thank you, sir.
So your question is about the non-recognition of certificate course.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the certificate courses, the courses being recognized to teach at higher education institutions or within the Ministry of Education has to be approved by the Higher Education Commission. So there are people who, for example, do courses in Ministry of Youth, facilities, but they don't come and teach. They go and basically use it for their own use. They may go, for example, if they're getting some certificate in farming, etc., they go and use that for their own purposes or set up their own business. It's not for teaching purposes. So if you really wanted to teach, you should have checked whether your qualification will actually be recognized by the Ministry of Education or not. So the whole idea is to incentivize you to get into a course that is going to be recognized by the Ministry of Education. As we've said, of course, there are people, for example, who have diplomas. There's some very good teachers who have diplomas. And what we are saying to them is that we want you to upgrade your skills. And if you can upgrade your skills, or your qualifications, I should say, then we're offering you these awards also in these new areas, new scholarships, in these areas of study. And then, of course, you can get higher salaries and, of course, get better opportunities. So there's a constant need to upgrade people's skill sets. So that essentially is what the position is.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Minister, sir. First of all,
I get worried when people start off like that.
I would like to acknowledge your presentation and the budget. I actually love the figures that you presented. Thank you so much, sir. I'm a year 1 student, and the issue that I'm going to raise today is in regards to the TELS, the loan scheme. I'm supported under TELS. Thank you, sir. Please allow me to present this to you. My accommodation fee and food allowance is 2,550 for a semester. My tuition is 1,566. This is, I have actually planned this. My allowance for a particular year is 1,000. That's my stationary allowance. For a particular year, for a particular semester, rather, it's $4,116. And adding the 2 semesters is $8,232. Plus that allowance for the particular year, which is 1,000, it is $9,232 for a particular year. Since I'll be doing a 3-year course, my total debt for the government is $27,696. So, as you mentioned lately on your presentation, that the TELS, they're still upgrading or developing these, they have to present our statement every 6 months, or whatever for that matter. But I want if it can be launched, or it can be done early, so that we know what the amount of money that we use and the amount that we have to pay to aid in transparency. Since, for example, at the end of the 3 years of my course, of my studies here at FNU, I have to know how much I have to pay back to the government. Thank you, sir. That's all I have to say.
So, sorry. So, we've already said to you, we'll be giving you those statements. So you're saying you don't want it every 6 months, you want it every 3 months or something? At the end of semester? But trimester is what, every 4 months? Every 3 months? Okay, well, no, we'll take that on board. I mean, we just have to look at the app. I mean, a lot of people also sometimes say we don't want to be bombarded with information too. But that's something we can take on board. That's fine. We've said 6 months, but we'll take that on board. The people who are developing the app, we have to make sure that they can do that too. Okay, thank you for that feedback. Lady here, gentleman there, gentleman there. Gentleman in the back, one there, one there. One there.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
One question in regards of the TELS. As a TELS student, after students, a particular student complete his or her studies, but still unemployed,
Yeah.
will the government help him or her to look for a job so that he or she can pay back his debt?
We don't go out specifically helping only TELS students. We want to help everybody. So it's not only for, it's for everybody. We don't go and hold your hand just because you're a TELS student. We want to hold everybody's hands. Right. Remember this also, if you've finished your studies and you don't have a job, say 3 months, 6 months, whatever, you don't have to do any repayments. Remember that. Right? Your repayments only start once you start working. Okay? Remember that. And those of you who come from low-income families, there's no interest. Then it starts from 0.5, 1%, 1.5, maximum is 2%. So for example, if your family earns more than $100,000, I think it's 100,000, can you get me the thresholds, please? I'll give you the thresholds. If you earn more than $100,000, then you pay maximum 2% interest. But low-income families, if you come from low-income families, you don't pay any interest rate. You can go to any bank. Nobody will give you a loan for 2% or 1% or 0.5%. So remember that. And when they do the deductions, the maximum they can take out is 20% of your salary. Right? So if you're earning, for example, 25,000, the maximum they can take out is 20% of your 25,000. Okay? So remember that. Just in case you're worried about that.
I am a year 1 student and a private student.
Sorry, you're a private student?
Yes. I've tried to apply for TELS, semester 1 and semester 2, but I was denied because I was a Form 7 2009 student. And I just have a question. Is there any other way that I can be assisted from the government? Because both my parents are unemployed And also I'm a straight A student. Is there any other way that I can be assisted from the government? Thank you, sir.
Under the current toppers and TELS schemes, no, unfortunately. There is no other provision. Because there are many people like you. See, when we do budgets, we know exactly how many people will come through. If we retrospectively apply it, somebody will come to me from 1999. Somebody will come from 2001, 2006, 2007, 2008. We won't know how much it will cost. We might blow $1 billion. Then we can't build the roads and fund this university, etc. So this is why all of these things have a cut-off date or start date. So like for the babies started from the 1st of August. We've had mothers calling me up saying, I just gave birth 1 week ago, sorry. Because we have to start from somewhere. Otherwise we won't be able to allocate the right amount of money. There are people in a situation, and unfortunately the answer is no at the moment under this scheme in any case. I know there are some private donors who do that, and one of the things we want to do is get them together to assist people like you. So we're looking at that. It's not very easy to do so, but I've had some people who've come forward and say, look, now that you people have made it free or you've given TELS, I want to be able to fund, say, people's textbook cost, whatever it is. So I'm working with some private people to put a trust together. So people who have, those kind of requirements can be funded by that. I had recently, for example, a father of a young man who has completed his studies, but because he did not pay the fees in that year, they're not actually giving him his qualifications. So I've tried to put him in touch with people who may actually fund it. So unfortunately, that's the position. I don't want to stand here and lie to you. Don't worry, we'll do it. But that's the legal position at the moment.
Sir, my question is, it's on behalf of some of us completing this degree program in B.Ed Primary. Since we'll be graduating this year, but as FNU has started offering postgrad for primary teachers from this year, but it's in service. What some of the teachers, students we would like to do, we would like to continue. We don't want to have a scholarship or anything. We just want our contract to be extended so that we can complete our postgrad, and then because the teachers there, they will be posted in different areas in the Vanuatu and other islands. So once they are posted, they will not have much opportunity. So we just want our contract to be extended so that we can have next year, this course can be offered to us through pre-service, if it's possible.
And you want to be paid through TELS?
Yeah. At the moment, we are under contract of degree.
No, but you're getting paid through TELS?
Yes.
Okay, and you won't be able to get TELS if you continue. You may be able to get a contract, an extension of you getting out of service to do your degree, but you won't be able to get TELS for that, because TELS at the moment is not allowed for those purposes. It's only up to undergraduate level. But we have this scheme over here. Of course, this does not apply to you, because this is for diploma people, teachers going up to bachelors. Then we have teachers who hold bachelors to upgrade to postgraduate studies. Now, the whole purpose of this is those people who are currently teaching. But again, it should be in these areas: maths, physics, and language literature. I don't know which area of study you are in.
Primary education.
Okay, so that won't qualify. And again, of course, we have masters for which we can offer in teacher training, tourism, agriculture, fisheries, and forestry. So that's really we won't be able to fund through TELS.
Thank you.
Okay.
So there is a concern as well on behalf of the students. It's just a concern like when we get our allowance, it's upon the number of units we take. If we take 4 to 5 units, then we get 100% allowance. But when we approach year 3, their trimester 2 and 3, we take 3 units. And then our allowance comes down.
Yeah.
But we still have to pay that same amount of rent and food.
No, you're right. And in fact, that has been raised with us. And that's an issue we're actually going to take up with the TSLB board. I mean, I mean, you're right. I mean, if you're doing sort of 4 units, you get full amount, but if you're doing 3 units, sometimes not through your fault, but because the courses are unavailable, it doesn't mean you only live 3/4 of the time. You live only 3/4 in the accommodation, only have 3/4 meals. So we're actually looking at to try and change that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. My question is regarding TELS again. Well, I'm a year 1 student, first time in the TELS business. And the thing is about, thank you firstly for increasing the bus fare allowance. But for us, we're renting, and boys, we don't know how to cook. We have to buy food. And here in Lautoka, food is maximum of $7. If you want good food, $10. Tasteless food, $5. It's like that. But sir, $50 per week is not enough for us.
So this is you're talking about $5, $7. This takeout meals, right?
Yes, sir. Like we have breakfast, lunch, then dinner, 3. Like $50 is like it will only cater for.
So how much do you get in TELS at the moment altogether?
Altogether, I should be receiving like about $1,000 for institution and.
No, for the whole year, how much are you getting?
Whole year I haven't calculated it, sir. But if I calculate, there's 14 weeks, so 14 by 50 plus that $1,000, so it will be maybe about 2,000 something there. But about that food thing, so I believe a lot of us, we eat a lot. So, but $50, it will only cater for 3 days, so. As you've increased that $30 per week, the bus allowance, we are pleading. This is a thing for survival. Can you increase our food allowance?
You may not know this, but the amount that is being paid out in TELS a couple of years ago was far less than what you're getting now. Total amount is about $6,000 to $7,000 over the whole year, $7,000 for the full TELS allowance. I assume you come from a family income of more than 30,000 or less than 30,000, which is?
Less than 30,000.
Less than 30,000. So you're entitled to get the full TELS allowance, which is $7,000 a year. That's the total amount of allowance being paid out, $7,000 a year. Now, so you need to go and calculate that. I asked you to calculate that. If you're not getting that amount, then go to the TSLB board and they should be paying you that amount. In particular, if you are getting money for accommodation and meals, etc. There was an issue, I remember a couple of years ago, at FNU over here, where the students complained that they should not get the entire living allowance being paid to FNU, because they wanted a separation of accommodation and food. So we did that. So from last year, you know that there's a separation now. Because they said to us, because sometimes the food at the hall is not that good, just pay for the accommodation, give us our food allowance separately, which is what we did. And we accept that fact. I mean, one day you may want to go on a diet and eat only apples and bananas. The next day you want to go to McDonald's, so we're giving you the free opportunity to do that. But if you are living in accommodation by yourself or with others and you have access to a kitchen, we expect you to also cook your own food. You don't have to buy takeout all the time. The reality is that there is not an unlimited pot of money. The reality is there is a limited pot of money. And the reality is that many people, for example, you may not, sorry, do you want to listen to my answer or? You want to listen to my answer or? You can sit down if you want. There are many people, for example, who are at university today, they would not be in university if it wasn't for TELS. Many people. And that's a hardcore reality. I've had people say to me, I wish they had free education in high school, I would have finished high school. There are many women who said to me, I wish we had it in our time, because in our days when there was 5 or 6 children in the family, the girls had to stay at home and the parents could not afford, only the brothers went to school. And that again is a hardcore reality. So many people are today in university because of TELS and because of toppers. As you also know, toppers no longer distinguishes on the basis of province or your ethnicity or religion, whatever it is. It's given on open merit. So we have sort of opened things up. Maybe you're not getting the right amount of TELS. I suggest that you check. You go to the website. We can give you the information after this. In respect, we have increased the TELS allowances. Used to be less before. It's now gone up to $7,000 a year. In time to come, hopefully we can improve it if economy keeps on growing. because we have to be able to afford it. Also, you have to remember that when you get the allowance, you have to pay it back too. So, you know, you can live a king's life and get all the money you want, but you have to pay it back at some point in time too. So it's a question of, you know, balancing it up.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for the very informative presentation you have presented us today. Well, my question is is again on TELS. Well, I'm a private student, and I came from a family background which they come in and out of the country, and I am restricted, and about the lack of transparency your government and TSLB committed to about the traveling restrictions for TELS recipients. Could you please elaborate on the traveling?
Can you tell me how is that there is lack of transparency?
Because I don't have a lot of information gathered from the TSLB office concerning the traveling. They say, and if I can sponsored by TELS, what are the conditions? Like how many years that I need to work for the government, or I have to pay back, then I can get out of the country or some stuff like that.
Okay, sure. People love using the word transparency nowadays and throw it into the mix. There's nothing non-transparent about that. The conditions are this. When TELS started, you needed to actually, if you came from a low-income family, you needed a guarantor. You needed somebody to guarantee that you would actually pay the loan. That was removed. So now, if you get a place in a university, you want TELS, you want the TSLB to pay your fees, they'll pay your fees. They don't need a guarantor. If you want the allowances, they don't need a guarantor. You simply get it. When you finish your studies, you don't have to work for government. You can work for anybody you like. Even if you get toppers, before, you know, when the PSC scholarships, ETOKFA scholarship and all of that, you had to work for government. We say you don't work for government. You just work in Fiji for Fiji. You can work for the private sector, you can work for anyone you like. So that's the condition. There's no restrictions. If you travel overseas and you owe money to government, we need a surety. How do we know you're not going to go overseas and not come back again? We've had people who've done that. And it is wrong for people to get educated, get funded by the taxpayers of Fiji, and then they simply sneak away in the middle of the night, using our money and benefiting some other country. It's only fair. As I've said, we've got a very young population. We need people to pay the debt. Yes, if you want to migrate, you want to go and live overseas, you pay the debt. So now, it's very simple. So now is now accelerated. So now, if for assuming you've qualified as a teacher, you've got full TELS, your debt is say $34,000, $36,000, you pay 50%, the other 50% is written off. You can migrate. But we need that money. Yep. Now, if you want to travel overseas, but you're not migrating, assuming you're going for a holiday, we need a surety in the event you don't come back. So if you're going for a holiday, we need somebody to give us a surety to say that that in the event you don't come back, that they will pay your loan, like a guarantee. That's how the system works. It's a guarantee that in the event you don't come back, your loan will be paid by them. It's like you go to a bank. When the bank sometimes feels you cannot pay the loan, they'll say, can you give us a guarantor? So I'll come along and say, look, my brother's taken out the money, but I'll also give my guarantee. In the event he doesn't pay, I'll pay for it. That's what you call a surety or a guarantor in that respect. But if, I mean, we've had people now, for example, who've got jobs. They're working in other Pacific Island countries. They've got TELS. The company has given a guarantee. We've got people, for example, in Fiji, from Fiji, who are working in Papua New Guinea and various other countries. So we're comfortable with it. They're doing the repayments from there. That's how the system works.
First of all, climate change is on the rise in Fiji. Currently, I'm finally an undergraduate student pursuing a degree in undergraduate degree in biology and chemistry. Just recently, the Fiji National University has offered us a postgrad all postgrad courses, which is a one-year program for a full-time student. And according to we have been writing letters and theses based on the current issues we are now facing in Fiji. For example, NCDs, all the issues regarding the courses that we are taking now. So what we are requesting is that is there provision for us? For example, in science, we all studied everything. We will study everything, but in order to work, you have to be specialized. For example, in plant biology, animal biology. So we are requesting if there's a provision or if there's a criteria so that we can write our thesis to be supported by our own lecturers, and then TELS will be able to support us in order to become a specialist in Fiji. Thank you.
We recognize the need for specialization. That's why we've got these programs there. So my pointer does not reach all the way. You see this 20 awards for teaching, that's teaching. Now we've got priority areas for teacher training, tourism, agriculture, fisheries and forestry. That's for postgraduate studies. And so we've got 20 for civil servants and 24 Masters Award. So the guidelines for that will be rolled out before the beginning of next year in respect of that, how it's going to work. But generally when this is rolled out, we were looking at more sort of getting people who are already out in the field, who are working, and then for them to upgrade themselves. That is the general idea behind this. And you know, for example, you may have a generalist degree. So you may go out and work, say for a year, in the civil service or even in the private sector. Then the idea would be that you can actually apply for this master's upgrade in those areas. That's the general view of what we're trying to do. To get some, you know, people to upgrade in those areas. Because generally a lot of people, for example, may do a generalist degree, and once they start working, then they recognize, look, there's a shortage of, you know, expertise in this area. We will also, the reason I'm saying we will also identify in those selected areas, what are the areas, say, within fisheries and forestry that we require expertise in. Because there are different, obviously, subsets within fisheries and forestry that we require expertise. So you need to wait for the details. We'll be publishing those very soon, and we'll see which areas we want, you know, postgrad studies done in. Yeah?
With regards to TELS and for matured students, as my colleague has already explained, is it a possibility if we can have guarantors?
Can I have, sorry?
Guarantors. You know, to guarantee that we can pay back the TELS?
At the moment, there's no budgetary provision. Because even if you have guarantors, we still have to pay up front. Yeah? So, for example, you are somebody who's a mature student who does not qualify under the current scheme. So even if we have to, say, pay for you, we have to pay up front for that. At the moment, there's no budgetary provision for students who got their qualifications prior to 2014 to get TELS. That's the current position.
Thank you.
We love to be able to do that, but you see, even if we did do that, we would have to say at some point in time, we will have to only say for these specific areas. Otherwise, we'll have to go far back. You have to have some kind of ring fencing. You know, it could run into billions of dollars.
Good afternoon, sir, to the Honorable Minister. I just want to ask a question based on that table. It says 20 awards for teachers holding a bachelor's degrees to upgrade to a postgraduate degree, and PhD teachers in the maths, physics, and language and literature, that is English, fields will be eligible for this upgrade. My question is, why primary school teachers are not eligible for this upgrade?
Where does it say that primary school teachers are not?
According to my friend, Farzana, as she mentioned earlier, and you mentioned that she's not eligible to do that upgrade since she's in the primary field.
No, that's a different question. What she asked is she's currently already here. She's currently got a study leave and she's doing a bachelor's degree. She wants to simply continue with that. But we're saying we can't do that. You need to be able to be teaching there. And this is actually not TELS. This is actually a scholarship, fully paid scholarship. That's the difference. Yeah. So you can see over here, the 15-year scholarship says teacher training there too. It does not mean only it's restricted to only high schools. Teacher training can also be for primary schools. Okay, there's somebody here. One here, one there. Maybe ladies first, please.
Thank you, the Honorable Attorney General. I'll try to be as brief as possible. I want to bring to your attention two matters that relate to us as students. The first of which is the need to establish a regulatory board that looks into accommodation for non-residential students, those who rent, and the quality of the accommodation given to them, because I have students, friends, who pay about $85 to $100 a month and have to share a room with 5 other people. And so we would like to recommend that a regulatory board be established to look into this big issue, because it affects our studies. The second is one that affects our students and members of the community here, and that's our road. The road leading up to our campus. It services the Natabua prison, Natabua primary school, FNU Natabua campus, Saru MGM, the reservoir, the quarry, right down in Saru, and the surrounding communities. There's about hundreds and hundreds of people who use this road. The big quarry trucks, they run almost 24/7, and the roads are really bad. And earlier this year, we witnessed a fatal accident just in front of our campus, where a young student lost his life. And that's because of the poor quality of the roads. And we would like to request that this issue be looked into very seriously. Vinaka.
In fact, the issue of roads has been raised, and in fact, we've got some upgrades that will be taking place. There has been some upgrades that have taken place. No, this is University of Fiji, not FNU. But no, we've got that raised. You now have footpaths here? Your footpaths? All the way up to you? Oh, you have only one side. Okay. There is obviously a very big problem with road reserve, because the fence of the prison is so close by to the road. And of course, on the other side, you have the footpath. No, we take your point. I think the roads are in a lot better condition than what they were probably a couple of years ago. But we'll definitely look into it. Kamal Gandra is also on the board of FRA, so we'll ask him to look into that. Your first issue is not actually about whether we should have a regulatory body or not. The fundamental problem is the stockpile of homes is very little. So your accommodation access, you don't have, a number of properties available for accommodation. That's the real issue. Now, we've been talking to your VC also, and we've also been talking to FNPF, and it's not an issue just over here, but also, in other campuses throughout Fiji, to provide more affordable student accommodation. And it's an expensive exercise, but FNU at the moment is talking to a number of stakeholders. In fact, I had a chat with the VC a couple of days ago, and hopefully there'll be some solutions very soon. Now, even if you set up a regulatory body, right, how are you going to regulate it? The reality is that because a lot of people want accommodation, you have a lot of unscrupulous people around. So they pack people in rooms like sardines and charge huge amounts of money. We had the issue, for example, at USP2, sometimes 5 or 8 people in one room, charging them $100 each. So they're making a killing on that. So it's a question of the demand and supply. So the solution to that long-term solution is to provide more accommodation and affordable accommodation. And that's what it is. So that young man who may be eating out all the time, hopefully if he gets access to a good kitchen, He'll go to the market, buy some fruits and vegetables, cook it, so he doesn't have to eat out all the time. I mean, I've lived in accommodation in universities in Australia where we used to have common kitchens. So you just have your rooms and then you have one big place with different small kitchens and everybody was assigned to a kitchen and you made your own food. It's not necessarily tasty, but you could make your own food.
So the problem is faced by the day scholars regarding the traveling allowance. The traveling allowance is placed in the cards as all know, e-ticketing cards. But the problem is where when we are having the class at 8 o'clock early in the morning and we have to catch the bus and then come along to the campuses, the certain campuses. But the problem is where the bus stops at nearly every stop. So that's where we get late for the classes. So it's a humble plea if the money which is being placed in the cards could be given in cash or in the bank accounts. That would be really grateful, sir. Thanks.
No, that has also been suggested to us in the past. In fact, we had some people who suggested to us some time back saying that why don't you pay us the entire allowance for the year or for 6 months. But we've also had people, even though they've been paid for the quarter of one semester, we paid it into their accounts and then they've come back to us saying we run out of money. They've spent the money. So the reason why we're actually putting in the e-ticketing cards is because of the fact that it brings about a lot more discipline. We probably can look into it, but it's going to be very difficult. Some people don't want to do that. Some people prefer the e-ticketing, gives them better accountability. Some people like yourselves, you want the cash. It's something that we have to weigh. I mean, we're not sort of highly strung up about it. But the fact of the matter is that we've got $30 now that's been given as allowance. So I don't know the example you gave. How will that help you? So what will you do with the cash? You won't catch the bus, you'll catch a taxi, but you'll run out of the money. Why would you use that money? Oh, minibus. Okay, all right. Yeah. Yeah. But we also want to very soon make e-ticketing in minibuses too. So that'll solve your problem too.
Since you have installed the Digital Fiji program for the betterment of our future.
Sorry, I really can't hear you. Can you please put the mic closer to you? I can't hear.
Since you have installed the Digital Fiji program for the betterment of our future, just an issue, sometimes we experience power shutdown in school, and for hostel students, we do not have any other source with regards to our learning purposes. I'm just recommending if we have a backup power source in our campus, such as in the library and ICT.
Okay, so you're saying that because you have power outages, there's no backup generator on the campus?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, look, we give your university you've given them $65.1 million. You've given this much capital money. It's for your university council to decide how they're going to spend the money. For capital expenditure, they identify these ones, we give them specifically money for that. This is quite a large amount of money. We actually used to get 43 million only a few years ago. We recognize the fact, like I said earlier on, you need to pay your lecturers higher salaries, etc. You've got this lecture theatre. Last time I came, this was not here. So, I would relay your message to the VC and see that you need backup generators. Okay? Thank you. A young man here.
Basically, I do not have a question, but I would just like to make a comment if I can. Personally, I just want to thank you and your government for investing on education. It's just like ministers like you have invested in my life so I can become a better citizen of this country. So personally, I just want to thank you for investing in my life so I can sit at a national university and dream for a better life. Thank you so very much, sir.
Thanks. Can we please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Just a simple question regarding our intake into the Ministry of Education. Recently, you people have stated that the new recruitment would be based on getting good GPAs. And my question is our job guaranteed, yes or no, even if we have good GPAs? And regarding the issue of the various contracts with those that are already there in the field, how is it possible for you to deal with the issue of the intake of the new graduate if we have good GPAs? And is it possible for us, are there high chances for us to get our job after graduating from this institution?
Okay. We have been increasing the number, you can please have a seat. We have been increasing the number of teacher numbers every year. So for example, in this year's budget, there's another 200 new positions being created for primary school and another 50 for high school. So every year we've been increasing it by 250 positions, which means that we have the ability to absorb more graduates as teachers. So that is I suppose the surety you're looking for. Of course, there may be at times when there may be lot more people vying for the same positions. So it's a sort of demand-supply issue. The other point, of course, is that when you talked about the GPAs, etc., it's not only the GPAs. There's the OMRS basis. For example, we have, just to give an example, we've had now the salaries of principals for large schools used to be something like $38,000, $39,000 a year. Today, the salary of a principal of a large school is about $70,000 a year. It's almost doubled. Now, there's a recognition of the fact that they have higher levels of responsibility. But it's under OMRS. It's very interesting. So they all have to sit for a job test. They all get asked strategic questions. Writing up papers, they get strategic questions about how would you deal, for example, with truancy, what would be a method of, dealing with such matters. Now, a lot of the older principals and teachers, some of them are very good, but some of them have also said, well, I should get the job because I've been teaching in the system for 25 years and I deserve the job. Some of them have said that we don't need to be computer literate. In fact, one of the trade unions have said you should not make computer literacy as a requirement. In this day and age, people need to be computer literate. You need to be able to ensure you have data analysis of your school. How many kids come to school on time, how many kids don't come to school on time, all of that. So the whole breadth of proficiencies we need to look at for you to be able to get a job. I'm talking about at the principal level. Similarly under OM, and now as a result of that, we have teachers, females, who are principals of schools that were generally dominated by only males. So in the OMRS, everybody's given an equal opportunity. Now, in respect of your specific question about, will every single graduate, can I give you a guarantee you'll get a job? No, of course I can't. It's a silly question. It's a silly question. Because not everybody that goes to university will immediately get a job. But the chances of getting employment as a teacher in the civil service is a lot higher than it ever was. Because every year we're creating new positions. You may not get a job because you may not be good at being a teacher. The person sitting next to you may actually get the job. So I would be lying to you if I said to you, yes, all of you will get a job. You may not get it immediately, you may get it 6 months down the track. I'm not here doing a political statement. I'm here talking to you as Minister for Economy and Minister responsible for Education, and I'm giving you the facts. Many people come along and say, dupe you, don't worry, I'll give you a job. But that's actually not the truth. It depends on your level of proficiency. Depends on your ability to handle a job. Depends on, for example, how many people also retire from the system. So it creates more positions. We are, for example, at the moment, we want to create student counselors. There are many teachers who have doubled up as counselors, but really they don't have the training in counseling. I really want to get counselors out to all the high schools and primary schools. There's a shortage of counselors. I remember a couple of years ago, I was at Suva Grammar School doing the budget consultations, and the students there complained to me. They said, we want student counselors, we have a lot of issues. Boyfriend, girlfriend problem, drug problem, problems at home. And some of these teachers, they're not very good at giving counseling. I said, yes, but some of them actually do it because they have a passion for it. There's nobody else to do it. And then I asked them all the question. I said, how many of you want to leave high school and want to get a qualification as a counselor? Nobody put their hands up. Nobody put their hands up. So maybe if you've studied teaching and you go and upskill yourself and maybe get some kind of postgrad study in counseling, you could become a very good counselor. So don't view your qualification as you getting only that kind of job because you're trained as a teacher. Only about even 15 years ago, or more than that, more than 50% of the people in Australia who studied law never practiced law. But they used the skill sets they learned as a lawyer, to be a lawyer, to get jobs in other areas. So you need to expand your horizons as to how you see your career opportunities.